Let me know when ready. Thank you. Good morning and welcome, everyone. Today is March 11. Some housekeeping matters before we begin our hearing today. During the declared emergency in the City of Toronto Committee of Adjustment, virtual public hearings are being conducted by electronic means through the WebEx, an online digital platform, and streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. These measures are necessary to comply with physical distancing requirements and a provincial order that limits attendance at public gatherings. This will be a virtual public hearing, and participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx. This will be a virtual public hearing, and participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentations to the committee using WebEx, an online event that is being moderated by city staff. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may do so by watching on YouTube. Participants who have registered in advance will be connecting either by their computer, a phone, or a tablet app. All participants will automatically be muted on entry. When your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. Only the committee members will be participating by video. All registered participants will be participating by audio only. We ask that you mute all your personal devices, including the YouTube stream, when you're not speaking, to prevent transmission of background noise and to minimize any disruption to the meeting. Please unmute your computer microphones before speaking. Please ensure to mute the YouTube streaming while you are speaking. The hearing will take place at a slower pace. Each item will be stated, and then a moment will be given to allow everyone time to find their place. Please write down the WebEx meeting access code and attendee ID from your WebEx meeting invitation and keep it nearby for quick reference. If you're experiencing lag or audio issues, please disconnect and call into the hearing and enter the information of the WebEx meeting access code and the attendee ID. Please log into the hearing with the phone number that you have registered with so that staff can recognize your number and unmute you when your item comes up. Before we begin our hearing today, we acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit and the Williams Treaty signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. In accordance with Section 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment for the City of Toronto, Scarborough District is now called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for minor variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaw, permissions to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consents to create new lots. To ensure a fair and a timely hearing, I will vet the agenda to determine which applications can be dealt with immediately and which applications require a more in-depth review. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or the applicant may proceed with their presentation if desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak to the committee. The committee may ask questions or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or the agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment when you are reaching the 5 minutes. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or the agent will proceed first and will make a presentation to the committee. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to the proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if it's substantially revised to ensure that the revised application is accurate and that all those who are entitled to the notice of the application are informed of the changes. Then individuals either in support or in opposition to the application will be invited to speak. Please ensure to include all your remarks or concerns that you may have. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation. If there are several speakers sharing the same view, please select a spokesperson to present the group's opinion. We certainly want to hear your views. However, covering the same points will not advance your cause. Please be advised that all participants at the hearing today will be given a chance to speak to the committee before the committee moves on to the applicant for a rebuttal or a response, addressing the participants' concerns. The chair will advise if there are any questions of the participants. When all speakers are finished, the applicant or the agent will have an opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the speakers. Please note that unless the committee members have any questions, the participants will not get a chance to rebut the applicant's response. This will mark the end of the discussion. The applicant will then be taken into committee for a decision. Members of the committee, we have received the minutes of the last meeting. I would like to have a motion to confirm and adopt the meeting minutes from February 17, 2021 hearing. Member Saeed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will move the motion for approval of minutes of committee meeting dated February 17.
Thank you. May I have a seconder, please? Member Gary.
Madam Chair, I second that motion to adopt the minutes from our last hearing day. Thank you.
All in favor of this motion? Motion carries. The minutes of the meeting from February 17, 2021 have been adopted. Are there any declarations of interest of panel or staff today? I see none. Thank you. Mr. Deputy Secretary Treasurer, have you received any requests for deferral?
Through the chair, we've received 3 requests for deferral. The first one is the first 2 are for 2354 and 2356 Eglinton Avenue East. Those are items 1 and 2. It's a written deferral request at the request of the applicant to allow an opportunity to meet with Deputy Mayor Thompson and community planning staff on how to enhance the outdoor space. The third deferral is for item 24 KENCLIFF Crescent, a written deferral request at the request of the applicant to allow an opportunity to address concerns from neighbors.
And that is item 20.
That's correct.
Okay, so let us deal with the first item first, the first and the second items. And we have, although you mentioned that we have written requests from the applicant, but I just want to make sure. So we have the applicant and the architect, Radek Kozlowski. Are you with us, sir?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes, I am.
Thank you. And we also had registered with us Daniel Socken, the general counsel for the application. Are you there with us, sir?
I'm on mute.
We can hear you.
Sorry, you can
Okay.
hear me? Thank
Yes,
you.
we can hear you. Thank you very much. So just stay with us.
Sorry.
We have received a request for deferral in written from yourself, from the applicant, and the request for deferral is before the committee now. I would like to ask the committee if there are any concerns with the request for deferral for this is item number 1, and I would like to deal with item number 2 collectively. So item 1 and 2, we have requests for deferral. Member M.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no concerns with the deferral, and I recommend a motion to defer item 1 and 2 collectively.
Thank you, and that would be
Would it
signed.
be signed to yes?
And that would be
Yes,
signed. Okay. May I have a seconder, please, to this motion? Member Saeed?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I second the motion for approval of deferral of item number 1 and 2, Sunday.
Thank you. All in favor of this motion? Motion carries. The application for 2356 Eglinton Avenue East and 2354 Eglinton Avenue East, which represent item 1 and 2 on the agenda today, have been deferred sine die. Thank you. We now move to our next request for deferral. And that is item number 20, 64 KENCLIFF Crescent. We have with us Yasu Somalingam as the agent. Yasu, are you there with us?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Could you advise us on the reason for deferral?
We received a call from counselor's office. They have some neighbors have some concern on some of the variances. So we need some time to address the issues with the neighbors and the counselor, and then we need some time to address those issues and come back to the next meeting.
Thank you very much, Yasu. Members of the committee, we have a request for deferral by the agent on this application. Are there any concerns? If there aren't any, then may I have a motion, please? Member Macaulay. We can't hear you, Member Macaulay.
Item, again, sine die.
Could you, there was a bit of an interruption. Could you please repeat the motion?
I recommend deferral of the motion for 64 KENCLIFF Crescent and deferral sine die.
Thank you. May I have a seconder, please? Member Saeed?
Madam Chair, I second the motion for deferral of item number 20, sine die.
Thank you. All in favor of this motion? Carried. The application has been deferred. Sine die. Thank you, Yasu.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any more requests for deferral, Mr. Deputy Secretary Treasurer?
Through the chair, there are no more.
Thank you very much. So we have dealt with the deferral requests. I will now vet the agenda. I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda and ask if anyone other than the agent or the applicant is present in interest or wishes to address the committee. If there are people in interest, the matter will be held down until all non-contested applications have been cleared from the agenda. If there's no person present in interest of the application, the agent will proceed with the presentation if required. The committee may ask questions or take the matter into committee for a decision. I will now proceed with the vetting of the agenda. The first item on the agenda for vetting is item number 3. Item number 3 is for 1710 Midland Avenue. And we have the agent with us, Jane McFarlane. Members of the committee, before I do, I just want to check if the agent is there. Jane is there. Jane, are you there?
Good morning, Madam Chair. Yes, I am.
Good morning. Thank you. Just stay with us for a moment. So, members of the committee, 1710 Midland Avenue, any questions for the agent or the applicant? Member Macaulay.
Yes, I have some questions for the agent on this item.
So would you like to hold down the item for further discussion, or could we
I would
deal
like
with
to
this?
hold the item down, please.
Okay, thank you. So Jane, you heard Member Macaulay has some questions for you. So we will hold down this item and come back to it in the main body of the meeting. Thank you. So item 3 has been held. Okay. We now move to item number 4. Item number 4 is for 1957 to 1961 Kennedy Road, 7 to 9 Progress Avenue. We have Michael Barton as the agent. Is Michael with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Please stay with us. Members of the committee, any questions for Michael at this time? Member Saeed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I will prefer to have a brief presentation on this item.
So you want to hold down this item and come back to it?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, all right. So, Mr. Barton, you heard Member Saeed has would like to see a presentation from you. So we are going to hold down this item and come back to it in the main body.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So item number 4 for 1957, 1961 Kennedy Road and 7 and 9 Progress Avenue has been held for further discussion. We now move to item number 5. Item number 5 is for 71 PACHINO Boulevard, and we have with us the agent, Leo Messandria. Leo, you're with us?
Yes, good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Leo, we have received your request to remove variance number 6. Is that still on?
Yes, we had a call from the counselor's office to remove that variance, so we were going to remove that variance.
Okay, so for committee, variance number 6 on item 5 has been withdrawn by the applicant. Any questions for Leo at this time? So the application has been amended. I just want to make sure if there are any conditions of urban forestry.
Yes, Madam Chair, there are conditions of urban forestry.
Okay, so Leo, are you aware of the conditions of urban forestry?
Yes.
Do you have any questions or concerns with that condition?
No, none at all.
Thank you. Members of the committee, if there are no questions or concerns, may I please have a motion? Member M.
Through you, Madam Chair, I put forward a motion of approval subject to the condition of the removal of variance number 6 for item number 5 associated with 71 PACHINO Boulevard, subject to the urban forestry conditions.
So the application, so we have a motion on the floor for the application as amended with the removal of variance number 6, subject to conditions of urban forestry. May I have a seconder, please? Member Macaulay.
Madam Chair, I second that motion.
All right, all in
And
favor?
again, subject to,
Okay, all right.
go ahead.
All in favor of this motion? The motion is carried. The application for 71 PACHINO Boulevard as amended has been approved, subject to conditions of urban forestry.
Thank you.
Thank you. We now move to item number 6. Item number 6 is 76 Fallingbrook Drive. And we have with us Brian Lee. Brian, are you with us?
I am.
Thank you. So Brian, stay with us. Just want to make sure there is are there any conditions?
There are no conditions, Madam Chair.
There are no conditions, and we also have a TRCA memo, and there are no issues. Members of the committee, any questions for Brian Lee at this time? See none. If there are no questions, may I please have a motion? Member Saeed.
Madam Chair, I will move the motion for approval of item number 6, and there are no conditions attached to that.
Thank you. May I have a seconder, please? Member M.
I'll second that motion, Madam Chair.
All in favor of this motion? Motion is carried. The application has been approved, and there are no conditions. Thank you.
Thank you.
We now move to item number 7. Item 7 is for 48 LYNNDALE Road, and we have with us Maxine Shapsov. Maxine. You with us, Maxine?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Maxine. There's a staff report from community planning, and Maxine, are you aware of that staff report? Have you read that, that they're recommending a condition?
Yes, we've read it and we have no issue with that.
Thank you. And I just want to check if there are any conditions of urban forestry. There are no conditions of urban forestry. Members of the committee, do you have any questions for Maxine at this time? Member M.
Yes, I'm just wondering, Maxine, do you currently park your car in the front yard as it is? Is this an existing condition?
Yes, we do.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Thank you. Any further questions for Maxine? I see none. May I please have a motion? Member Saeed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the motion for approval of item number 7 subject to the conditions of community planning.
Thank you. May I have a seconder, please? Member M.
I second that motion, Madam Chair.
All in favor of this motion? The motion is carried. The application for 48 Lyndale Road has been approved, subject to condition of a community planning staff report. Thank you.
Thank you.
We now move to item 8. Item 8 is for 60 Scarborough Heights Boulevard. Uh-oh. And we have with us registered Peter Jerusik. Are you with us, Peter?
I am here.
Thank you. And we also have a neighbor, Dagmar. Are you with us, Dagmar?
I'm here, yes.
Dagmar, could you please confirm if you are here to speak in opposition of the application or in support?
I'm in opposition of part of the application.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, Dagmar. So members of the committee, we will hold down this item and come back to it for further discussion as we have a neighbor who has some concerns with the application. So item 8 for 60 Scarborough Heights Boulevard is being held for further discussions. So Dagmar, stay with us. We will come back to it in the main body. We now move to item number 9. Item number 9 is 142 Harewood Avenue. And we have registered speakers on the list, neighbors in opposition. So we will hold down this item and come back to it. So we have Leonard Soar, Ilona, and Janet May. If you are listening to us, please note that we are holding down this item and we'll come back to it for further discussion. So please try to stay connected with us. Thank you. Item 10. Item 10 is for 83 KALMAR Avenue. And again, there's a long list of speakers on the list that we have. So all those speakers who have registered to speak with us on application item number 10 for 83 KALMAR Avenue, please be advised that we are holding down this item and we will come back to it in the main body. So please stay connected with us. Item 10 is being held. We now move to item 11. Item 11 is 188 Silver Star Boulevard. And we have with us Jenna Thibault from Weston Consulting. Jenna, are you with us?
Good morning, Madam Chair. Yes, I'm here.
Good morning. Thank you. Just bear with me for a moment. Members of the committee, you have before you an application for minor variance for 188 Silver Star Boulevard. Any questions for Jenna at this time? I see none. Any concerns? I see none. All right. So if there are no questions for Jenna, may I have a motion, please? Member M.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I put forward a motion of approval for item number 11 associated with 0 Silver Star Boulevard. I see no conditions. So thank you.
Thank you. So we have a motion on the floor to approve the application. May I have a seconder, please? Member Macaulay.
Madam Chair, I second that motion. There are no conditions.
Thank you. All in favor of this motion? Motion is carried. The application for 188 Silver Star Boulevard has been approved.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. We now move to item 12. Item 12 is 1072 Midland Avenue, 1072 Midland Avenue. And we have with us Elena. Elena, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Good morning.
Good morning. Members of the committee, we have Elena with us. Any questions for Elena at this time? This is a minor variance application, and I want to confirm, Elena, that variance number 3 is being withdrawn?
Yes,
Okay.
it is withdrawn.
Thank you. So members
As
of
a
the...
request of the councillor. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for confirming that with us. Members of the committee, we have an amended application now that's before us. And I just want to make sure if there are any conditions of urban forestry. Elena, are you aware of the conditions of urban forestry?
Yes.
And
Yes.
do you have
We'll
any,
apply for.
and you're good with those?
No. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. Everything's fine. Yeah.
perfect. Members of the committee. Member Said, you had your hand raised. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam. Actually, the questions has been answered. So if the applicant has withdrawn the variance number 3 and the applicant is aware of the urban forestry condition number 1 and 2, I am willing to support this application.
So is that a motion or a comment?
If the members don't have a question, I would like the motion for approval of item number 12 as amended, subject to the condition of urban forestry.
Thank you. Member M?
I'll second that motion, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All in favor of this motion? The motion is carried. Application for 1072 Midland Avenue as amended has been approved, subject to conditions of urban forestry. Thank you, Elena, for your time.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
We now move to item 13. Item 13 is 400 Nugget Avenue. And we have with us Mark Rollison. Are you with us, Mark? No, he's not there? Okay. Maybe we can touch base again at the end of the agenda, just to make sure. Okay, so Mark, you are the agent on this application. You're not there. After we complete the vetting of the agenda, we will come back to it. Members of the committee, were there any questions or concerns? I just want to know. No? Okay, all right. So Mark, if you're listening to us, please try to connect. We will be back with you in a few minutes, just to check if you're there. So item 13, we will check again. Item 14, 169 Tower Drive. And we have with us the owner and a neighbor who has registered to speak in opposition. So we will hold down this item and come back to it. So neighbors, Carlos and Grace, please note we are holding down this item to come back. Please stay connected with us. Item 14 is being held. Item 15. 1379 Military Trail. We have with us Ronald. Ronald, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Members of the committee, we have Ronald with us. Any questions for Ronald at this time? Member Saeed?
Ronald, just for clarification purpose, how old this property is? When was this built?
The building was, they applied for the new building permit for, it was 2017, June 21st. So it's about 4 years from now.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, any further questions? I see none. Members, may I have a motion? Member M.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I put forward a motion of approval for item 15, 1379 Military Trail. I see no conditions.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We're still in the middle of the motion, Ronald. So there's a motion on the floor for approval. May I have a seconder, please? Member Macaulay?
Madam Chair, I will second that motion.
Thank you. All in favor of this motion? All opposed? Okay, so Member Gary opposes the motion, but the application has been approved and there are no conditions. So Ronald, your application is now approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We now move to item 16. Item 16 is 54 Pharmacy Avenue. And we have a list of speakers registered to speak on this. So I will be holding down this item and come back to it. So neighbors listed here with me are Paul Metcalf, Elizabeth Diane Smiley, Patricia and Sally Chang, and Jenny Chan. If you are listening to us, please note we are holding down item 16, 54 Pharmacy Avenue, and we will come back to it for further discussion. So please stay connected with us. We now move to item 17. Item 17 is 10 MACK Avenue. We have with us the owner, registered, Husna Dabaghi. Husna, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Just bear with me for a moment. Members of the committee, we have the owner, Husna, with us. The application is before you. Any question for Husna at this time? I see none. And I just want to make sure if there are any conditions of urban forestry. There is a condition. So Husna, are you aware of the condition of urban forestry?
Yes, I'm aware of it.
And you're good with it?
Yes.
Thank you. Members of the committee, if there are no questions, may I please have a motion? Member Said?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would move the motion for approval of this application, subject to the urban forestry conditions.
May I have a seconder? Member M?
I'll second that motion, Madam Chair.
All in favor of this motion? The motion is carried. The application for 10 MAG Avenue has been approved, subject to condition of urban forestry. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. We now move to item 18. Item 18 is 31 ALRITA Crescent. And we have with us the agent, Leo. With us? Leo, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay. And are you aware of the conditions of urban forestry?
Yes.
And you have any questions or concerns with that?
No, none at all.
Okay, perfect. Members of the committee, we have Leo with us on this application for 31 ALRITA Crescent. Any questions for Leo? I see none. If there are no questions, may I please have a motion? Member M.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I put forward a motion of approval for item 18, 31 ALRITA Crescent, subject to the urban forestry conditions.
Thank you. May I have a seconder, please? Member Gary.
Madam Chair, I would second that motion for approval, subject to urban forestry conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. All in favor of this motion? The motion is carried. The application for 31 ALRITA Crescent has been approved, subject to condition of urban forestry. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great.
Okay. We now move to item 19. Item 19 is 20 Nobert Road. 20 Nobert Road. And we have with us registered two residents, one resident who is in opposition. So we will hold down this item and come back to it. And the neighbor in opposition is Christina Dairo. So Christina, if you are listening to us, please stay tuned. We will come back to it for further discussion. So item 19 is being held. We now move to item 20. Item 20 is deferred. My apologies. Item 21. Item 21 is 141 Layton Avenue. Item 21, Layton Avenue. We have Jonathan Biskowski and Yasu, both listed as agents. Jonathan, you're with us?
I'm here. I think I'll be speaking to this, Madam Chair.
Okay. And do we have Yasu as well with us?
Yeah, we're going all straight into the open. We can find that. Just to keep this on, so can have the lighting going to everything is again.
Yasu, Yasu, are you talking to us or are you talking to someone else?
Yes, sorry. I'm here, and also Jonathan,
Yes.
who will be speaking on this matter too,
Okay.
in case if you need it.
All right, thank you. Yes, so Jonathan has confirmed he will be speaking, but I just wanted to make sure that you were there as you were listed as the registered speaker. So before,
Yes, yes, Madam Chair.
thank you. So now, committee members, we have both the agents with us. Any questions for Jonathan? I see none. And Jonathan, you've looked at all the conditions of engineering services, and there were comments from transportation. Basically, they're okay with the drawings, and I believe there are conditions of urban forestry. Do you have any issues with any of the conditions?
I have no issues, Madam Chair.
Okay. Members of the committee, any questions for Jonathan? I see none. If there are no questions, may I please have a motion? Please, Member Said, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would move the motion for approval of item number 21, subject to the urban forestry condition number 1 and 3.
And standard conditions of consent?
Standards condition of engineering, yeah.
Of consent, okay, all right. And I just want to make sure if there was any condition. Okay, so standard conditions of consent and urban forestry. Thank you. May I have a seconder, please? Member M.
I'll second that motion, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All in favor of this motion? The motion is carried. The consent application for 141 Layton Avenue has been approved, subject to conditions of urban forestry and standard conditions of consent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, committee.
Thank you. Item 22 is 1050 Military Trail. Actually, it's a long address. It's a combination of Morningside and Ellesmere and Military Trails. I'm not going to read all the entire property address, but it's item 22 on the agenda, and we have with us registered agents, and there are two owners or neighbors who are listed here. I just want to check with them what their position is on this application. So Melissa is the agent, Michael is the agent, Mark is the agent, Brent is the owner's representative, Jeffrey Cruz. Jeffrey, are you with us? Hello, Jeffrey. Jeffrey, we can't hear you. Are you muted? He's unmuted. Jeffrey, can you please speak if you are listening? You're signed in. We can see you're signed in, but we're not hearing you. Okay. The other person who is registered is Nadhimana. Are you with us? Oh, she's not there. Okay.
Are we able to proceed with this without, or should we?
This is what I'm just thinking. I will seek staff's advice on that.
Through the chair, out of an abundance of caution, my suggestion would be hold the item until, and then when this item is ready to be heard, do a roll call one more time. And if that person's not present, then proceed.
Okay, thank you. So Jeffrey and Dhimana, if you are listening to us, please sign in. You have registered to speak with us. We're not sure of what your position is, but we want to give you a chance. If you're listening to us, please connect, and we will come back to it in the main body. So item 22 is being held to give an opportunity for the two registered persons to get connected and speak with us. Thank you. That brings us to the end of our agenda for the vetting.
However, Madam Chair, we were going to revisit because we were missing the applicant for, I think, item, what was it, 17?
Thank you for reminding that, Member M. That's great. So we are going to check again.
I noted as 13, but.
Oh, sorry, 13.
400 Nugget
Yeah,
Ave.
400 Nugget. My apologies.
Through,
okay.
Through the chair, we have confirmed that the agent for item 13 is now registered.
Mark Rollison? He's there? Okay, Mark, you're there?
Yes, I am, Madam Chair. I apologize for the delay.
No, not a problem. So Mark, we have your application before us. It's 400 Nugget Avenue. And committee members, any questions for Mark? Before we do, we have a staff report from community planning. Mark, are you aware of that staff report?
Yes, I am, Madam Chair.
And there's a recommended condition. Are you okay with that condition?
The condition being that we substantially construct in accordance with the plan submitted and that there is no implicit approval of non-noted variances. Yes.
That's correct.
We are okay with that.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you for confirming that. And also, I just checked, there are no conditions of urban forestry. Some members of the committee, any questions for Mark? I see none. If there are no questions, may I please have a motion? Member Macaulay.
Member Macaulay, you're on mute.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I recommend approval of this variance for 400 Nugget Avenue, subject to the condition of community planning.
All right. May I have a seconder, please? Member M.
I second that motion, Madam Chair.
All in favor of this motion? Motion is carried. The application for 400 Nugget Avenue has been approved, subject to condition of community planning staff report. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. And that's it? Okay. So we are going to now come back and start the discussion on the items that were held. So before we do that, I just want to make sure that we have the correct items noted for being held. So just checking with the list. Item 3, item 4, item 8, item 9, item 10, item 14, item 16, item 19, item 22. Okay. Thank you. So now the first item that was held, item 3. Item 3 is 1710 Midland Avenue, and we have with us Jane. Jane, you with us?
I am, yes. Good morning again.
Good morning. Thank you for staying with us. Members of the committee, would you like to have a presentation? And I understand Member Macaulay had some questions. Member Macaulay, do you want, first of all, I'm going to ask Jane. Jane, would you like to do a presentation, or would you like us to dive right into the questions?
I would like to give, Madam Chair, a small presentation this morning. The body of the planning rationale is within the letter that I submitted to committee, explaining how the variances are working. But I would just like to provide a bit of an overview this morning to indicate that the variances that we're requesting before you today are very much to do with the conversion of an existing industrial building. In order to convert the building into 17 smaller condominium industrial units, we have to apply for a series of variances that are very much to do with the existing conditions of the lot, where the accesses are, where the parking is located. In many attempts, we are improving the site. We're adding more parking to bring the lot closer to conformity with the zoning. We're adding additional landscape buffers. We're organizing the proposed uses in a way that respects the adjacencies to this property. I did want to highlight the two neighbor letters from the neighboring owners at 1700 and 1720 Midland Avenue, indicating their support for this application. I also wanted to highlight for the Committee of Adjustment that this application, as I mentioned, is going through concurrently with an application for condominium approval. That condominium application has gone through 4 reviews with all city staff. So staff have very much looked at the particulars of this application, and we've finally worked to a point where this is one of the last outstanding items to clear the condominium application. So that's a bit of just my overview for the committee today, and I'm happy to dive further into the planning rationale and answer questions from the committee this morning.
Okay, thank you, Jane. That's great. Member M, your hand is raised. Please go ahead.
Yes, Madam Chair. I just have a question for the agent. So you stated that a lot of these requests are as a result of an existing condition. So can you confirm that the landscaping buffer as proposed as these variances is an existing condition along with the setback from the existing residential zone? Can you just identify exactly of your 8 variances, which ones are the existing conditions and which ones would potentially be sort of new as a result of this conversion?
Certainly. It's a little bit tricky to identify exactly which ones are a result of an existing situation. For example, the way it's working is the parking currently is along the south property line. And that is there today. It's shown on the existing site plan. Thank you, staff, for bringing that up. You'll see where the parking is located along the south lot line. What we're doing is very much filling in the gaps in between where the existing parking is. But because the parking is closer to a side lot line than 0.5 meters, we need the variance for both the existing parking as well as the proposed new parking that's needed on the property. Now, just to comment on that further, for example, the building was built before the current zoning bylaw came into play. So the parking that's on the property currently does not meet the standards. So we've had to add in order to bring the building and the property into conformity. So that's with respect to the parking, for example, and I believe there's a parking for side lot or for the relationship to the side lot line as well as in the front yards.
So if I were to summarize the situation, you're basically saying that you're looking to improve the existing condition with the parking on site because this is an older existing industrial building that predates the bylaw. You're doing your best to meet the existing requirements of the new bylaw. However, in doing so, you're encroaching into the side lot lines. So, you know, in a way, it's an existing condition, but you're trying your best to improve upon it to meet the current standards, but still require a little bit of relief, is what my understanding is, right?
Yes, through the chair. That is a very accurate description of what we're doing today.
Okay, can you please confirm about the landscaping buffer though, please? So I understand the parking now, but I just want to understand the landscaping buffer because it is a requirement of, you know, 1.5 meters, and I see the proposed is 0.6 and 0.7. Can you just shed some light on that?
Certainly. So the landscaping buffer that refers to the 1.5 meters is really on the property. So you'll see the existing landscape buffer that's on the city boulevard to the west of the property line. That's in excess of the 1.5 meters. Now, the landscaping strip that we're providing on the subject property varies in width. For instance, at the south end, we're providing 2 meters. You can see, yes, where the cursor is. However, the variance is reflecting the smallest condition, which is at the north end of the landscape strip, and that's 0.6 meters. However, that's to a small cutout to accommodate for a manhole that's already in existence. So to
Okay.
summarize, the majority of the landscaped strip meets or is very close, or in certain cases exceed the 1.5 meter requirement. But the variance that we're requesting shows this anomaly at the top end where we
The
have a
pinch point.
manhole to respect.
Understood. Now, and this is also to facilitate additional parking, right? So you're saying that, you know, if you were to provide what you needed, you would lose parking spaces there.
That's correct. There's existing parking already. We're proposing more. However, one particular that we're working through with planning staff is that they have asked us to take away 2 of the tandem parking spaces, which don't contribute to our parking supply anyway, because tandem are not counted under the new bylaw. And we're fine, and that would increase and provide even additional landscaping in the front yard, and we're fine with that condition.
Understood.
Thank you.
Okay, that's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Macaulay.
Thank you. I believe yes, I'm not muted, right?
You're not muted. We can hear you. Please go ahead.
Thank you. To the applicant, I have a couple of questions on this application, and part of it relates to the condominium application that you have. I understand the condominium application is not before us, but it has some impact on what you are doing and some impact on the staff conditions. So first of all, in the draft plan of condominium, can you confirm that the exclusive items are units 1 to 17?
That is, through the chair, that is correct.
The parking, is it, how is the draft plan of condominium dealing with the parking? Are they exclusive use items or are they common items?
Through the chair, to respond to that item, we're going to be dedicating through the condominium declaration various parking spaces to the occupant of each of the units, and we'll also have visitor spaces. So through virtue of the condominium plan, we will not be unitizing each and every parking space, but it will be tied through the condominium declaration to each unit.
Okay, thank you. That raises another question I have, and that is the parking versus the use.
Huh?
Is the parking requirement because of the proposed vehicle repair use? Is it increased from a regular industrial use?
Yes, through the chair. There are 2 different parking requirements, the vehicle service and repair versus the industrial use.
But
okay.
And
then I understand that the parking request then is because of the vehicle service and repair use. So you're asking that that parking be reduced from what is normally provided in the zoning bylaw to permit the vehicle service and repair use, additional parking. And you are telling me that you are going to assign those parking spaces to those units that provide for vehicle service and repair use. Are there going to be, how is that going to be accomplished? Are you going to say units 7 to 17, for example, will have parking spaces sufficient for vehicle service and repair use, whether or not those units are used for that use?
Through the chair, yes, that's exactly it. We will be assigning certain parking spaces based on the units and their respective uses to the parking spaces. Due to the difference in the rates, we will try to compensate for, the shortfall will not be accommodated by just 1 or 2 units. We'll spread that across. but we are very close to the parking requirement. I believe we're about 14 spaces shy of the zoning requirement.
Okay. Because it was a beautiful day, I went out and took a look at this property and a couple of the other properties on the agenda. Are there any vehicle service uses in place on this property?
Through the chair, I'm not aware if there's any vehicle service and repair on this property at this current time. However, many of the adjacent properties do accommodate for the use that we're proposing, including one that I specifically know of, which is at 1680 Midland. About 3 properties to the immediate south of this contemplates that use in a very similar fashion to what we're proposing. Okay.
Thank you. I drove up and down the street and took a look at what is happening. And that leads me to my next question. You had asked that the zoning bylaw be varied to allow vehicle service and repair on this lot, whereas the existing zoning bylaw says it would not be permitted on any portion of this lot because the lot is within 100 meters of a property zone. Is that correct?
Through the chair, that is correct. We have applied for a variance now just for the vehicle repair portion. I would note that bylaw 569/2013 does allow vehicle service to be located in proximity to residential properties zoned residential. And I do note for you today that what we have done is only propose vehicle repair uses on the portion of this lot that exceed 100-meter distance to the residential units that are located to the east. And there will be a condition imposed that vehicle, if approved today, that vehicle repair shall only locate outside on the lot outside that 100-meter buffer to ensure that the intent of the zoning permission and compatibility is met.
Okay, and I see that that is one of the conditions of the planning staff report. So you are in agreement with that condition, is that correct?
Yes, through the chair, I am in agreement, yes.
Okay. I guess the last question on this is your original application was for the first 3 units to be industrial. And then through discussion with staff, you have made it down to the first 7, I believe. The 100 meters setback from the residential zone, is that from the residential property on the east side of Midland, or is that from the residential zone, which would go up Midland Avenue?
Member Macaulay, I'm sorry to interrupt, but the variance does say it's from a lot in a residential zone. The variance speaks to that. It's pretty clear there.
Correct. And because the distance factor is 100 meters, I'm asking where is that residential zone? Is it the property line, or is it the line of the middle of Midland Avenue? Because that makes a difference as to whether it is Unit 7 or Unit 6.
But we have this in front of us. The zoning review has occurred. The distances have been sorted out through that process. So I'm not understanding what are we trying to get at here. The zoning has been clear.
If there's a site plan application, and that would have been vetted through that, so they would have understood the measurements. So we're applying it to the logic that it's the units that have been brought before us through this application.
Through the chair,
I will
abandon
that question. There isn't a site plan application. That's one of the conditions that is being requested. This is an existing building.
Okay, so here's the thing. There's an active condominium
application.
There's an active condominium application.
I am satisfied with my questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further questions? Member McKay.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Just to the applicant, I'm just trying to get a little straighter in my mind the ownership and the use. When the condominium plan is registered and it creates the units, and then is the declarant going to operate the vehicle repair and say units like 4 to 17, or you expect that other individual ownerships will other businesses would buy some of those units? They might even be competing business in vehicle repair. Yeah, just trying to understand sort of the ultimate ownership and use. Could you address that?
Sure. Through the chair to respond to that, we're going to be offering, as it stands, it's actually 16 separate units for purchase. These smaller condominium industrial units have become very attractive because they're a chance for smaller local operators to purchase and to operate a business out of these much smaller units. However, nothing would preclude a certain operator from, for example, purchasing 2 or even more should their business dictate larger space requirements. And certainly interior renovations could be made to accommodate for a shared space or to keep them separate. That flexibility would still be there. In theory, sir, yes, there could be competing operators, at this site, in very much the same way that you have small, finer grain retail operators in a commercial building, and you've got 2 of the same retail operators next to each other. However, we do know that density sometimes even brings more people and customers. So we're very confident in what we're proposing here, which is very much similar to model that we've done on a couple properties to the south. I prepared and submitted a very similar application, went through the condo application process and the minor variance process, and that building is very popular and fully occupied.
All right, thank you very much, and we can proceed to look at the variances again. Yeah.
Thank you. Member Said.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you very much, Jane, for a very good presentation. Just wanted to go back to the beginning of the discussion when you were mentioning the developments on the south line. So I will go back to that point, and I was wondering, what are the existing situation at this property? And my question relates directly, how many parking spots are existing now, and how many of them are at the front yard?
There's a site plan, Member Said. Please go ahead, Jane.
Through the chair, yes. In the architectural package, there is an existing site plan, which is on page 3 of 10 of the architectural plans I submitted. And you can look at, for instance, the 2 yards, both on Midland and Midwest, and you'll see the parking that's located in the front yards of each. So there is 10 existing parking spaces on the Midland frontage and 10 as well on the Midwest front yard.
Thank you.
On the west side.
And you were talking about the tandem parking. There are 8. So I wonder, all these going to be maintained there? I mean, it's not included in the subject, but still they will be there, or you are going to improve on these spaces?
Through the chair, yes, sir. We're going to be proposing tandem spaces. We realize that they do not count towards the parking supply that has been captured and analyzed in the parking study that was submitted, save and except for, I believe, 2 spaces, 2 of the tandem spaces that staff want us to remove. in order to provide for greater landscaping on the Midwest frontage only.
So Jane, I think it would be very important for the committee to understand clearly what is existing is a certain number, what is proposed is a certain number that's greater than the existing. And furthermore, I understand that you're going even beyond to provide tandem, which doesn't technically contribute to your parking count, but would possibly meet all of the number of parking. Like if you were to count the tandem, would you satisfy the condition is my question.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And through the chair to respond, currently on the Midwest frontage, the front yard, there are 10 existing parking spaces, and we are proposing 8 parking spaces plus 4 tandem. So that's a total of 12 parking spaces.
Okay.
Now on the Midland frontage, there's currently 10 parking spaces, and we're proposing to maintain those 10 spaces with the addition of 2 accessible spaces, which you'll see are located at the northeast side of the site plan that's being shown on the screen as well.
Correct. And these numbers are indicated on the site statistics on the plans as well. So the numbers are there.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. They are articulated on that architectural package.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to, on record for everybody here, to hear exactly what the existing was and what the improvements are, because I think that it is all an existing condition that they were improving upon. So I just wanted to have it very clear from the applicant what exactly was being proposed with the parking, despite it all being in our packages.
Thank you. That's been noted. I think we've had quite a good discussion on this. If there are any pressing questions, please let me know from any member. Member Said.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I won't take much time, but since Jane is there and she's very clear about the proposal. Jane, I need your comments. The entire development and the proposed parking numbers are based on a proxy survey, which is closed by an identical building 1680. And you are applying a parking rate, I suppose it's 2.57 spaces, yes. 2.57 spaces per 100 square meter, which is proxy survey to 1680. And that survey was carried out about 2.5 years before. So my question is how you feel that this is exactly the requirements at this point of time?
Through the chair, to respond to that, the parking engineer undertook that proxy evaluation because the configuration of the lot and the building and the proposed use with these smaller, approximately 220 square meter condominium industrial units is very, very similar to what we're proposing on this property. So in very small instances, do you get a site that is so close to what we're proposing? I do understand that it was undertaken a couple of years ago. However, that was prepared when we initially came forward with the condominium application. I would note that transportation staff have reviewed this several times, and they have not asked for an update to the proxy site or to the calculations that are in the parking study. Should it be a concern of theirs, I'm sure they would have if they wanted to.
Thank you, Jane, for that. And I was about to say the same comment that the transportation services have looked at it, and we have not received any concerns or comments from transportation services. So I'm satisfied that the experts have looked at this information and they are satisfied and they have no issues with it. So I will leave it at that. And any further clarification? Okay,
Yes, I think that actually the parking study, they even specifically say they have no concerns
Correct.
with variance number 2. So I think that that should be noted.
Perfect. Okay, thank you very much for that. I think we've had a good deliberation on these, and given the, in the interest of time, I would like to proceed with a decision. I'd like to take the matter into committee, but before I do that, Jane, one last chance. Anything else that you would like to say?
Not at this time, Madam Chair. I believe we've covered most of the items.
Okay, thank you. So I take the matter into committee now. Members of the committee, any comment, or are you ready with a motion on this application? And just so you know, again, just reminding the community planning staff report dated February 22nd, and Jane did confirm that she has no issues with the recommended conditions. Member M.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say to my colleagues on this panel, I am prepared to put forward a motion, and I do have a few statements to support my motion. I don't want to jump the gun and do this if you guys are not ready to hear a motion, but let me know if I can proceed, please. Okay, so
right.
I'm assuming that I can. Oh, Anne?
Member Macaulay, do you want to say anything?
Yes, we're in discussion here, and so I want to discuss this before we move to a motion.
Please.
And I see that we've got both the condominium application, and in essence, the condominium application is running through to the requirements for the variances. I have some concern with that first comment from community staff, permission for vehicle repair shops. At the moment, vehicle repair shops are not permitted. There is a reduction requested of 22 parking spaces, I would assume required by the vehicle repair shops because of the increase in parking for the vehicle repair shops. I have some difficulty with vehicle repair shops on this property. I'm not sure what, there's a difference between vehicle servicing and vehicle repair.
If I can,
I've looked
sorry.
at the property, there isn't any vehicle service or repair that I can see on the property, and it looks like the building is fully occupied.
Okay, I just want to clarify,
Therefore-
Member Macaulay, just before we proceed, I will let you finish your comment. Before we do, just a point of clarification. A vehicle repair shop is permitted as a use, but under a certain criteria that it must be on a lot that is at least 100 meters from a lot in the residential zone. So the use is permitted subject to this criteria. So I just want to clarify that.
Okay, I will take that.
And further to that,
wait
the
a minute, I would
condominium creates its own lots.
One at a
right?
time.
So
One
No.
at a time. Member Macaulay, please continue.
Thank you. First of all, the condominium does not create its own lot. That's why I was asking her about the condominium. The condominium is units. The lot is the entire lot at this address going from Midland Avenue to Midwest.
Member
And that
Macaulay,
was
I think
also
we're getting into a zoning interpretation here, lot versus the property. I think we should just read it, read the variance that is before us with the wording and the language that is in the variance. Let's not complicate ourselves with the condominium. And I do have staff who wants to clarify something. Staff.
Through the chair, I would reiterate that, but I also indicate that this application did go through a zoning review for the minor variance application, and as you pointed out, Toronto Buildings are the only people who can provide zoning interpretations. So you have what is before you right now, the application, which has been vetted through a zoning review.
Thank you for that clarification. For record, we want to make sure that we have the correct facts, and that's why it's important that we clarify that. So carry on, Member Macaulay.
All right. That clarification doesn't, I agree with that staff clarification that vehicle repair shops are not permitted anywhere on this property at the moment. And that is why the request for applicant for variance number 1.
Okay.
I further found out from the applicant that they are hoping to provide parking sufficient for vehicle service uses as well as the industrial uses, but they are short in the zoning from 22 parking spaces, which is the request for variance number 2.
Okay.
Now, I have some concerns about this application, but I will leave it to my colleagues to make their own comments.
Okay. Member M, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So essentially, lot or unit, regardless, the use is going to be constrained to the areas of the building that meet that requirement. So I truly don't feel that that is something we should deny, because they are essentially meeting that separation distance being beyond that 100 meters. That use will only be applied to that portion of the building. Whether it's a lot line or a unit line, no vehicle repair shops are going to be within that 100-meter boundary. So I feel like it's, they are meeting the requirement for variance number 1. And I truly feel that they're trying to be flexible here to ensure that this building gets tenanted, and they're not asking for something that's outrightly denied to this area, because it is allowed just subject to that separation distance, which they are going to meet by only applying it to units 9 through 17.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
No, this is just my statement as to why I feel that I don't have concerns. So Member McCauley stated why she has concerns. I'm trying to explain why I support this.
Okay.
And, my motion that I would like to put forward eventually. So the second thing I wanted to address is the parking. We have to be cognizant of the big picture here. The big picture is, yes, there's these requirements, but what is on site? Well, what is on site is there's additional parking that's going to be there that we're not counting. And in reality, if somebody is going to drive to this property and park wherever, do you think they know that they're parking in a spot that's being counted versus not counted? No, they're just going to use the spot. So at the end of the day, I don't think we should be discounting the fact that they probably are pretty close to meeting the bylaw requirement if those parkings were able to be counted. So I think we're being overly heavy-handed here by ignoring that there are additional parking spaces on the site that just are not contributing to the overall requirement. I think we need to look at that big picture, because the people that are using the parking aren't going to necessarily know that they're parking in a spot that is being counted or not being counted. Lastly, I was kind of concerned with the landscaping buffer, but now that I see that it's adjacent to already a green strip owned by the city, and that they are removing a couple of spaces from the tandem to count towards that landscaping buffer. I mean, now that I understand the constraints with parking, I'd prefer them to keep the tandem parking. But that being said, this is staff's recommendation, and ultimately we need to trust our experts, guys. Like, the applicant submitted expert technical studies that were reviewed by the city's experts at the, both the city planning department and the engineering department. So, they've outlined a whole series of conditions for us to consider, which in their mind addresses all concerns and protects the city in terms of what needs to happen through those conditions. So, I mean, both planning staff and engineering transportation staff do not have concerns with these variances. And I for one, want to trust those individuals, because I'm not a transportation expert. And, I leave it at that. And I support this application.
Okay, all right. So I think we've had a good discussion on this, and I think we should be putting forward a motion now. In the interest of time, we have a lot of applicants waiting. So please go ahead. Unless something's pressing, I would highly recommend that we put forward a motion now. Please.
So, Madam Chair, I'd like to put forward a motion of approval subject to community planning conditions. And I believe there is no transportation conditions.
No, there isn't any. Okay, all right. So we have a motion on the floor to recommending approval of this application subject to conditions as stated in Community Planning Staff Report dated February 22nd, 21, I'm assuming. All right. All in, may I have a seconder, please? May I have a seconder, please? Last call, a seconder, please. All right, the motion fails. I need a new motion. Folks, we have to proceed.
Okay, so I amend my motion then, because I'm assuming people aren't happy with the parking. So I amend a motion for partial approval then. So this is going to take a little bit more time. I recommend approval of variance number.
You could just leave the one that you are thinking of removing and just say the rest.
Okay, well, I'm assuming everybody here has issues with the parking and the location of. You know what? I withdraw. I think that I can't support a partial motion. I feel like these variances are minor in nature, and appropriate considering the existing conditions and the fact that they are improving on what is happening today. So
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I can't do a partial motion.
All right, thank you. So we heard Member M has withdrawn her request or her motion to do a partial motion. Member Macaulay.
Madam Chair, I put forth a motion to approve the application with the exception of item number 1, that vehicle repair shops shall be permitted on a lot that is located 26 meters from the lot. The remainder of the applications really come because of the vehicle repair uses, and the parking that is being proposed is because of the vehicle repair shop, which has an increased parking standards. I don't have a problem with those parking standards. I think when everything's all done, they will find they don't need as many parking spaces, but I do have a problem with the vehicle repair use being permitted, and I recommend approval of variances 2 to 9, subject to the 2 recommendations of the community planning staff. Owners to submit site plan and landscaping plans and a financial security, and deleting permission for vehicle repair shops.
Thank you. May I have a seconder, please? Member M seconds the motion. All in favor
I
of...
second the motion. I just second the motion because I would like to see this application approved, even if it's in partial. So thank you.
All in favor of this motion? All opposed? The motion is carried. The motion is, the approval is partial, save and accept variance number 1. All other variances have been approved and subject to condition of community planning staff report, condition number 2 and 3. And Member Said had voted against the motion for record. Thank you. So Jane, the application has been partially approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
All right, we now move to the next item that was held, and this is item number 4. Item number 4 is 1957 and 1961 Kennedy Road and 7 and 9 Progress Avenue. We have with us Michael Barton. Michael, you're with us?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Michael, would you like to present to the committee, or would you like to dive right into the questions?
I think I'd do a brief presentation just to cover the crux of this and then be open to questions from committee.
Sure, thank you. You have 5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Okay, well, thank you very much, members of the committee. This application really is about parking requirements. I think just to try and boil it down, there are 2 variances, one relating to restaurant floor area, the other the required parking. The restaurant floor area, it really is a matter of parking as well. A cap is placed on the property to try and control the restaurant space that is developed here. And a big reason for that is that the restaurant parking requirements are higher per 100 square meters than most of the other commercial uses. So the intent here is to ensure that any increases above that cap are requested, that there's a full review of potential parking and then also traffic implications as a result. Transportation staff have looked at this, and I discussed it with them on a number of occasions, just to ensure they fully understood what we were doing. And they have provided a letter to the committee indicating they have no concerns with the parking variance. So that was the reason why I wanted to just make it clear that the restaurant floor area really is largely driven by the parking supply as well. So when we looked at this in the discussion that I had with staff and in my planning justification report, it really comes down to what is the direction the city is going in the official plan with respect to parking and the new zoning bylaw. So this property does sit under former Scarborough bylaw, but we're really looking at, you know, the purpose intent of new development in the city, particularly locations like this that are well served by transit. And the zoning bylaw for the wider city 569/2013 has updated standards that reflect trip generation that's seen in the city. And I think those standards really are what we're looking at here. So you would note in my report that even with the increased restaurant floor area, the new bylaw would only require 98 spaces on site, and we currently have 154. So that is why staff agreed with us that there aren't any concerns here with anticipated parking deficiency. So it really is that matter of whether we expect there to be an adverse impact related to the parking by allowing the additional restaurant floor area. There is no new construction. It's fully within the existing units on the property. No changes anywhere except for interior retrofit of the unit that's in 9 Progress Avenue. And really just looking to confirm again that this existing parking on site is more than adequate to handle this. And just as a background, it really comes down to market demand. So what the owner is seeing here is request for additional space on site for restaurant uses compared to other types of commercial. So that's why they are really seeing this demand for additional restaurant on site. So I think that gives the overview that I'm happy to answer any questions about.
Thank you, Michael. Members of the committee, questions for Michael? Member Said, yes, I think it was you who had requested this to be held down. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Michael, yes, the parking is, I think 154 parking, those are more than enough, and that's not an issue. I want to be more clear about the floor area of the restaurants, and tell me what exactly, like how this floor area has been added. Now, my question is about 2 units, the B3 and C4. So question number 1 could be, is B3 is still a restaurant area, or somewhere in the report I found that it is going to be back to as a retail space? And the second question related to this is, what exactly is the floor area for Unit C4 in Progress Avenue? Because I see there are 2 different measurements given in the document. So could you please just elaborate on this?
Yes, so you are correct. So there is no increase in total floor area on the property. It's just a transition of floor area. So what has happened is one of the units, so you mentioned the one that was previously shown as restaurant, it's going to remain restaurant. However, there is demand for this additional unit based on its layout and size to also be restaurant. So the increase is related to changing the use of the before you today in Progress Avenue C4 from a commercial to a restaurant. So that's where the change in use comes from. So the additional above the current cap of just over 1,600 square meters comes from that space that's in Unit C4 in progress. And that is why we are seeing a change in demand for parking and an increase above that cap that we originally received on restaurant. So it's all just because of the change in use of that space in C4. And then based on the design drawings that we have had, so they did a building survey which went in there and actually surveyed the space. This is where they were giving us the 1,776 square feet of current space that sits as a commercial use. And the intent is that now becomes a restaurant space as opposed to a retail. So the use itself isn't a concern. It's triggered by there's a cap on restaurant and a different parking requirement. So the use itself as a restaurant is permitted.
Okay, so Michael, tell me about the floor area of Unit C4 at the Progress Avenue. In the main chart, the one we are looking at the screen now, it tells us that the floor area is 165 square meter, right?
Yes.
But when I look at the site plan of C4, the site plan particularly for C4, the square meter mentioned there is 152. So if I go by that, the site plan, that's the main thing, then there is a difference of 13 square meter between these two calculations.
So what that is, just so I can confirm, you're looking at the colored floor plan that shows the units in progress, 9 progress. Is that the one you're referring to?
This is the one
that one there. Is that the one you're speaking? I just want to be sure I'm looking at the same one.
If you exactly look at the site plan of the C4 unit.
But member Said, what Michael is asking, which drawing are you referring to?
I see one on the screen right now. I just want to make sure that's the one you're looking at.
I think the previous screen was showing the site, this one. Could you look at the floor area? What's the floor area over here is?
152.
Yes. So I can explain this. There's two different parties involved here. So we're using the larger number, or I am using the larger number in terms of how you calculate the floor area versus how this is the designer for the actual space. So this would be the restaurant tenant, and this is their spacing they're using. We're using the larger number based on how zoning would calculate the space. So we're actually assuming a higher floor area than this plan shows, which is the tenant outfit plan. So by having an additional 10 square meters, we're actually accounting for a larger restaurant space and a larger parking demand. So it really is just a difference in how it's been calculated by this designer, which she probably used interior, not including the wall depth thicknesses and things like that. So we are being more conservative in our calculation of the floor area.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Michael.
thank you very much, Michael. Thanks.
Thanks. Any more questions for Michael? All right, thank you. Michael, any closing remarks before I take the matter into committee?
No, thank you. I appreciate the time, and if anything does come up, I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, members of committee, I take the matter into committee now. Any comments, or are you ready for a motion? Okay, I see Member Saeed. Please go ahead.
Madam Chair, I am ready to move a motion if other members don't have any question. Can I move a motion now?
I did not hear or see anyone, so please go ahead with the motion.
Thank you very much. Madam Chair, I will move the motion for approval of this application, and I don't see there is any conditions attached to that.
Okay, thank you. May I have a seconder, please? Member Macaulay seconds the motion. All in favor of this motion? Motion's carried. The application is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we will now move to the next item that was held, and that is item number 8. Item number 8 is 60 Scarborough Heights Boulevard. And we have Peter Jerusik with us. Peter, you with us? Thank you, Ali.
Yes, I am.
Thank you. And I want to check, Dagmar, are you with us? Thank you, Ali. Dagmar, can you say something, please?
Yes, I am. I'm
Oh,
with you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We just couldn't hear you. So now we can hear you well. Please stay with us.
Okay, I
Uh,
will.
Thank you. So committee members, this is an application before us for 60 Scarborough Heights Boulevard to construct a new two-story detached dwelling, and we have before us 3 variances. Peter, would you like to make a presentation, or would you like to dive right into the questions?
I'll make it a brief presentation.
Please, you have 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, it's a very simple application here. We're requesting 3 variances. The first one regarding the front yard setback, where 9 meters required and we're at 7.86. The majority of the front elevation is within the 9 meters. Because we've enclosed the porch more than 50%, that's included in the front yard setback. So it's only the front porch that is encroaching into that 9 meters. But the remaining garage and elevations of the house do comply with it. The reason why we brought this forward is if you look at the backyard, if Brian can go to the rear yard, is we want to keep in line with our neighbors at 58. We didn't want to push the house back further due to the fact that on the at 58 to the left side, we're now lined up with their rear yard, and we didn't want to push it further back than them, which would impact more on 62 on the other side, which is a smaller, not as deep of a house. So we stayed as tight as we can to the front yard, keeping our 9 meters everywhere except for the porch. If our porch was more opened up, it would have been as part of it'd be included as a front it would have been included in the zoning, but because we enclosed it more than 50%, it was now permitted. In terms of number 2, the floor space index, I just want to bring your attention. This falls under the exception number 1462, where the size of the lot dictates that we have to be under 0.4 times lot area. I just want to bring the attention to the fact that we're at 702.66 square meters. That provision is up to 697. So we're only 6 square meters too large of a lot. If our lot was 6 square meters lower, then that provision would have been 0.5 floor space index under exception 1462. So because we're about 1%, less than 1% of a larger lot than to move us down to 0.5, I believe that this is minor in nature in terms of the requirement. The last one is the balcony, and this is just for ease of construction. The balcony is on top of the front porch, which is 8 square meters. We could reduce a railing into it to create half of the porch roof, but just for ease of construction, and it's not going to make that large of a difference. It's more of a decorative feature, and the client wants to be able to go out there and put some of their outdoor plants to get some sunlight. It's more like a rooftop little garden that they want to do there, that we want to keep the railing in line with the outline of the porch, which expands it from 4 square meters to 8.17 square meters. That being said, if anybody has questions, I'm willing to answer them.
Thank you, Peter. Members of the committee, any questions for Peter at this time? Can I get the screen back? All right, thank you, Brian. Any questions? I see none. Thank you, Peter. And committee members, if there are no questions, I will move to speaking with the neighbor. So Dagmar.
Yes. After talking to the neighbor about my concerns, I was okay with the front setback and the balcony that he wants to propose, but I'm really concerned about the extension of the house into the backyard because it's taking up about 50% of the lot area, and I'm a very outdoor person, and I spend a lot of time in my backyard, and I feel that it's really going to compromise my existing landscaping because there'll be shadow where there is now sunlight, and I spent 38 years. I've been living there for 38 years, and I've spent 38 years getting my garden in order. And so and the privacy factor as well, like, being outside and then having this gigantic house with windows looking down on me. The other, my most pressing issue is because there's trees. I have one tree that they've needs to be removed. They're on the property line, and I've got 3 other trees that they're requesting to be injured. So, and I haven't heard anything about because they're one of them is over 80 years old, and I haven't heard anything from the tree protection. The tree protection thing that
Urban
from the
forestry
city.
or urban forestry
Urban
department?
forestry, that's
Okay.
right. Yeah.
So
I
we do
haven't
have
heard anything from them.
conditions that urban forestry has provided to us, Dagmar, and those conditions
Well, they
are.
haven't said anything to me.
I'm not sure.
Yes, go
Okay,
ahead.
I'm not sure about that, and staff can perhaps help me with that.
Through the chair, what I can confirm is that there are urban forestry conditions. 2 conditions. The submission of a application to for a permit to remove or injure a private tree. And the second condition is where there is no existing tree, the owner shall provide payment in lieu of planting of 1 street tree in the city road allowance.
So I think, Colin, the question was, urban forestry has not said anything to her.
Well, that's because it's not
I have not heard anything.
That's because the application is actually it's actually on the applicant's property, not yours. So that's why.
The tree
Yes.
is on. Okay.
Yeah.
So if I can clarify, Dagmar, because the trees are on your neighbor's property, for which we are here today.
Hang on a minute.
Okay.
They're not on the neighbor's property. They are right on the border. They're not on his property.
Okay, so we'll get that clarification from Mr. Jurusik. So I will park that for a moment. When we have Mr. Jurusik back, I will get that clarification for you. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Please carry on.
Well, it's just that, it's really going to impact my existing landscaping, the size of this house. I have no objections to the front part of the house, but I think, extending the house halfway through their backyard is too much.
What I can confirm
in my opinion, I mean, I'm living in a bungalow, a 2-bedroom bungalow.
Correct.
Like it's about, half the size of what they're planning to build here, maybe even 3 times the size.
Building length. Yeah. So I just want to clarify for you, Dagmar. I totally appreciate your concern. Yes, it is going to be a longer building, but I just want to clarify and on the record that there are meeting the zoning bylaw regulation for the length of the building. So the minimum required or maximum permitted building length, they are meeting that particular regulation because there's no variance before us today. So they are permitted to have that building length. I just want to clarify that with you.
Well, I thought the building, the permitted floor area is 4 times the lot. That's what it says here on the thing. The maximum permitted floor area is 0.04 times the lot area. So the difference then, what they're proposing is 69.48 meters more. So that's allowed?
So the floor area, just bear with me. The floor area is for a different purpose. Your concern, the length of the building is the actual wall that you will see, but the floor area is, again, I don't want to interpret or read the zoning bylaw, and maybe that's where I can get staff's help in confirming that this floor area is a different calculation, and it comprises of the gross floor area of the building.
Through the chair, that's correct. The floor space index controls the bulk of the proposed development.
Okay. Remember,
Madam
Amy.
Chair, if I may.
Remember, Amy,
Yes,
because I can't see you, because I cannot see you on the screen, it's really difficult for me to then keep track. So, Yes,
I was trying to get your attention.
but I can't see you
Madam
on the
Chair, if I
screen.
may, yep. Madam Chair, if I may try to help Dagmar understand.
I think I'm going to leave
So,
that to Peter Jerusik to clarify. I would like to
well,
leave
no,
that.
I just wanted to just say that I was just trying to explain what the zoning bylaw does and what what variances
No,
are.
Amy, I'm gonna. Sorry, I'll have to. I'll have to.
I'm not trying to support or whatever the actual variance is. I'm just trying to help her understand planning, which I think
We are not supposed to comment. This is a clear direction to me from staff is to not comment on zoning because that's not my purview or our purview. Well, we have tried our best. We have tried our best, and we would let Peter
But
advise.
you were able to clarify what your explanation was with the setbacks, so that's why I just wanted my turn, if I could, please.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So, Dagmar, there's multiple ways in which people are regulated to build on their lot. And in Toronto, there's various different requirements. Some are setback related, some are overall floor space, which is the amount of actual square footage of building. And some are heights and some are lengths. So there's many different tools that the city imposes to help regulate how construction occurs on a property. So in this particular case, the applicant is applying for relief on 3. The rest of them, they comply. That's why there is no requests. So in terms of the length, when you were saying that, the building is going to be double the length, you'll see that there is a requirement under the zoning bylaw for length, but they actually meet that requirement. Same with rear yard setback. There is a rear yard setback requirement, but they meet it, and that's why it's not on the list. So what is on the list before you today is what they're requesting relief on. So it's the front yard setback, the platform area, and the overall amount of floor space, which in an FSI doesn't necessarily have to be at the grade. It can be on multiple stories. So I just wanted to give you sort of a planning 101 exercise example of what all these variances really mean. And that's all I was trying to do. I was not trying to do interpretation. I just felt that Dagmar needed some clarity on how this whole process works. Thank you.
Thank you, Member M, for that clarification. Any further comment, Member Macaulay?
This is a question to Peter. Has he
Peter has not.
initiated the
He's not on. He's not right now with us. We're still dealing with Dagmar right now, so he'll have to wait for his turn. If it's a question for Peter, then we have to wait for Peter. Right now, I'm with Dagmar.
Okay. Can I ask the question because it's relating to Dagmar's concern with trees?
We will get to him.
And
we will get to him.
Okay.
I'm just trying to maintain. I'm just trying to maintain the order of the meeting right now. So Dagmar, any further comment?
Concern is the trees because, I don't know what's going to happen there. One of them is an 80-year-old tree. Obviously, that one has to be removed if they want to build that house.
Okay.
So, but I have not heard anything from the urban tree.
Okay. All right.
People.
No, we will have Peter answer that question. Any further comment before you go?
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your time, Dagmar, today. We now move to Peter. Peter, are you with us?
I am.
Okay. So, Peter, you heard the comments, you heard the concerns, and I would give you the opportunity to now respond to the concerns that were raised by Dagmar.
Okay, in terms of the urban forestry, my client did go out there. He has an arborist report already completed, and his indication to me is that he spoke with the neighbors showing the arborist report. Now that one tree that is the boundary tree that's leaning over, it's actually technically leaning over onto our roof right now, and that tree is to be removed. The other trees, they had circles on the arborist plan just to signify where the drip line is for the tree protection zone. So yes, they will form part of the application for us to create the tree protection zone to protect it, but they will be on the application as a potential injury for tree. But they are about the drip lines about 4 or 5 meters away from the extent of our construction zone, and we will be providing the proper tree protection zone. So there are circles indicated on her property regarding trees that need to be protected. That's why we are the risk of injury is minimal, because that's why we are 5 feet away from the tree protection zone that we'll have to set up to protect those trees. So there's only the one boundary tree that will need to be removed due to the fact that it is currently actually leaning on our property through the fence. It's a boundary tree, and the leaves are actually over our current roof.
But
In terms of this,
but Peter, before you proceed, can you confirm that those trees are on your client's property?
there's the one that's being removed is a boundary tree. So it's actually coming through the fence into our property. So about a foot or two off the ground, it's on our property. The trunk is going on an angle, going over our roof actually. So the most of it's leaning onto our the majority of it. It's a boundary tree. The other trees that we have is tree 1 and 3, which you guys don't have the arborist report, are on her property, but they are about 5 to 6 meters back from our final rear wall, and we will be doing the proper tree protection on that as per our application with forestry. So we are still far away from even being close from the drip line of those trees for the root protection as per the arborist report.
So what I hear is that there would be some tree protection measures for that tree on her property, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so who
Yes,
will
and
be
our whole
who will be
backyard is going to be tree protected.
okay? So and who will be notifying Dagmar of that?
It'll be going through the forestry department. So as soon as we submit the following this meeting, hoping for a positive result, we will be submitting the application to urban forestry, and through their process, the proper requirements for notification will be triggered at that point. Right now, there's nothing submitted to forestry for them to technically even communicate with her, because we have not submitted the application, because that's one of the conditions. So as soon as if should the committee find it appropriate to grant these requests, then we will have to abide by the conditions of forestry, which will submit the application to them, and their process starts in terms of communicating with the neighbor.
Okay, thank you. So Dagmar, you've probably heard, you will be notified at the appropriate time, because there is no active application to urban forestry, hence no communication. But when that happens, you will be notified. Peter, carry on with
And
the
one
rest
other
of the
quick
responses.
Yeah, one more. So the last point I want to just point out, the existing house right now is 1.4 meters away from her property line. Our new dwelling, we've actually respected that and actually extended it further. We're now at 1.87 meters from the property line. So we brought the houses in as well at the side yards compared to the existing property. So we've improved on the side yard setbacks to the neighboring property by over 0.4 meters.
Okay, thank you. Members of the committee, questions for Peter? And you had a question? You got that clarification?
Peter has answered my question. Thank you very much.
Any further questions for Peter? I see none. Thank you, Peter. Any closing remarks before I take the matter into committee?
Nothing from me.
Thank you. All right, members of the committee, no further questions, so the matter is now into committee. Please go ahead. Comments or a motion? Member Saeed?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe the variances before the committee, variance number 1, 2, 3, they are minor. And if the applicant is okay with the condition of urban forestry and the neighbor is also fine with that, so I am willing to support this. If the members don't have any comments, I can move the motion for that.
Any comments before Member Said moves forward with the motion? I see none. Member Said, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Madam Chair, I will move the motion for approval of item number 8, subject to the urban forestry conditions.
May I have a seconder? Member Macaulay? Go ahead.
I will second, Madam Chair, I will second that motion subject to urban forestry
Thank you.
conditions.
All in favor of this motion? The motion is carried. The application has been approved, subject to conditions of urban forestry. Thank you. All right, so we are at 11:30. Committee members, we still have a few items to go through. Would you like to have a break at this time, or would you deal with the next application and then go for a break?
Madam Chair, I would say we can take one more application.
Is everyone good? Okay, all right. So we will take one more application and then we'll do a short break. So moving to item 9. Item 9 is 142 Harewood Avenue. This is a minor variance application before us for a new 2-story detached dwelling. And there are 4 variances before us today. We have members in opposition, and there are some speakers with us. So, Peter, are you, Brian?
Through the chair, I would like to add a speaker to the list that I can confirm has registered to participate before the deadline. However, their name was not included on the list in front of you today.
Okay.
So if I can confirm to add Mr. Greg Morton to the speakers list for item number 9 at 142 Harewood Avenue.
Okay, thank you, Brian. So Greg Morton has been added now. Okay, so I will do a quick roll call. Peter, you're with us?
I'm still here. I am still here.
Okay,
Yes.
so Peter is the agent on item number 9. I will do a roll call. Leonard Soar. Leonard is not with us, as advised by staff. I will move on. Ilona? Lona?
Here, Lona, I'm here.
Lona, thank you. My apologies for the mispronunciation. So Lona is with us, so please stay with us for a bit. Janet May.
I am here.
Thank you. Please stay with us for a moment. And Greg Morton.
Yeah, I'm here.
Perfect. Thank you. So,
Thank you.
So Leonard, if you are listening in, please, you're not connected. We are going to start the discussion. We're going to start the discussion and we'll bring, if you are listening to us, please try to connect. Member Macaulay, you have something to say? You're muted.
His address, please.
Can you, we didn't hear you at all. Please go, repeat.
Someone.
And leave yourself unmuted for a bit. And go ahead.
Someone else is muting me.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Okay. All I want is Greg Martin, if he could give his address.
Oh, okay.
Live at 140 Harewood Avenue.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Is that all?
Oh,
perfect.
That's all.
Okay, thank you. All right. So we now go to Peter. Peter, we have your application for 142 Harewood Avenue. Would you like to give us a brief presentation or go with the questions?
I'd like to give a short presentation.
Okay, please go ahead. You have 5 minutes.
Okay. I do know that my clients have had a conversation with some of the neighbors here regarding some of the concerns. One of it is for variance number 4, which is the balcony. I know changes cannot be done on the fly, but if it's in the interest of the committee, he's fine to remove variance number 4. But I'll leave that up to you guys in this regard in your motion at the end. So that's the balcony at the back for 4 to 16. My client is okay to remove that variance if it behooves you. In terms of the other variances, the floor space index is similar to the previous application where we're trying to just get a little bit more and where it falls into the area. We're complying with all the side yard setbacks, the depth. The depth is the depth of 18.62. This one's an interesting one as the depth of our building is at 18.62 to the middle bump out. Now, there is an exception in the zoning bylaw that if anything goes beyond, you can go another meter and a half beyond the 17 if it's one story. Now, my client did want to have a larger master bedroom, so he built over that bump out at the rear of the house that extends the center part of the house to 18.62. The rest of the house does comply with the 17-meter setback. So the majority of the house is a 17-meter setback. It's only that little jog at the back, that extension in the rear that extends it out to 18.62. In terms of the height issue, this extra foot, it's just to avoid having a flat portion roof. The previous house we were looking at had a flat portion roof. Here you can see on the elevation that you're showing, there's a dotted line on the elevation that shows the back roof. So the front part is going to be like kind of a reverse cottage roof, but the remaining roof on the majority of the house is a cottage roof. And that's the minimum slope of 412. Because it's a wide house, because it's a wide lot, we're just keeping the minimum slope, but it still brings that to the extra 0.33 height of the house. So that's why we're requesting it. We can lower the roof to comply, but it will mean a flat roof. And some clients do have concern of flat roofs. It's a different type of roofing product there, potential leaks. So he wanted to try to maintain that shingled roof, which is tried, tested, and true. And for it to be considered a pitched roof, it has to be a minimum 412 pitch. So that's why we're that extra 0.33 higher. In terms of, I mentioned the building length and the height, and again, number 4, the deck in the back, if that is of a concern to the neighbors and to the committee, we're fine to remove that variance.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Brian, can we have the screen back, please? Thank you. Members of the committee, you heard Peter with the presentation. Any questions for Peter at this time? See none. All right, thank you. We will now move to speak with our residents. The first one, just checking again, is Leonard with us? Okay, so Leonard, you haven't joined us, so we will move along and speak to the next neighbor who had registered. Lona.
Good morning, Madam Chair and committee members. My name is Ilona Kazmarek, and I am here today along with my neighbors Greg Morton and Jen May to speak to you in regards to the development of the property at 142 Harewood. The neighbors of 142 have spent considerable time preparing for this meeting, and we would like to make our presentations. It's somewhat unfair for the applicant to, sort of be changing up the variances at the last minute without allowing us to have meaningful conversations amongst ourselves as the community. I have had the pleasure of living at 144 Harewood for the last 11 years. My house is directly next door on the north side of 142 Harewood. Mr. Caradonna, can you please pull up the attachment number 1 for view by the committee members? So it's attachment number 1. Yes, thank you very much. So I would like to address variances 2, 3, and 4. Okay. The maximum permitted building height of a dwelling is 9 meters squared. The proposed dwelling height is 9.33 meters squared.
It's
so
sorry.
3.8.
Just want to clarify, it's not squared. That's not an area. It's the height. So it's the length.
Oh, okay.
It's a meters.
Okay, sorry. I apologize.
Okay.
It's 3.88% higher than the permitted height. This new build with its high turrets will be built on a street that is mostly filled with bungalows and 1.5-story homes. While there are some 2-story homes, this new build will also dwarf them. This incredibly tall building will stand out above and beyond any other home on the street and diminish the very character of the neighborhood. As seen in this attachment, okay, you have a 1.5-story home on either side, and it completely dwarfs these 2 homes, one of them being mine. In regards to variance 3, okay, the maximum permitted building length is 17 meters. The proposed building length is 18.62 meters. So this exceeds the allowable length by 9.53. This house is so long that it will affect the enjoyment of my own backyard. So instead of enjoying the beauty of nature, I will now be faced with a brick wall. In order to be able to extend the length of this home, the current trees on the property would have to be removed. This house will also encroach into the tree line, destabilizing one of the defining characters of our street, which are homes with large setbacks nestled among a majestic canopy of mature trees. I know that the developer has asked to remove variance 4, but variance 4 is a very important issue for us, as the maximum permitted area of second-story balconies 4 meters. The proposal is for 16.12 meters, which is 303% larger than the permitted area. This proposed balcony will still all sense of privacy from my family's enjoyment. We live in such a beautiful neighborhood. We're ensconced in an area that allows us to live amongst the beauty of nature, mature trees, a variety of wildlife. And we have that semblance of privacy of being in our own backyard. This new build will remove that privacy. We'll always have someone looking directly down on us, watching us, thus taking away our privacy and our ability to enjoy our own backyard. This new build at 142 Harewood will not only change my family's life, but it will change our entire community, from the aesthetic, robbing our community of the charm and unique character, to destroying the very nature that allows our community to bask in the majestic beauty that nature provides. Our privacy will be infringed upon, denying us the enjoyment of our own backyard. And with this in mind, I join my community in requesting that the committee refuse this application. Thank you for this opportunity to address the committee. And I would like to now turn it over to Greg Morton, who will focus on some of the other variances.
Okay, thank you, Lona, for your time. You met your 5 minutes, so that's great. We now move to, before I move to Greg Morton, I would ask the committee if there are any questions for Lona. Okay, I see none. All right, thank you. We now move to, the next person on my list is Janet. So Janet.
Oh, hi. We have our presentations in order, and Greg somehow was missed, so I have no problems if you would allow him to go first.
Sure, no problem. Thank you very much. So Greg?
Oh, hi. Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Greg Morton, and as I said, I live at 140 Harewood Avenue, next door to the applicant to the south. You'll have to forgive me. I'm not a big fan of public speaking. Something like this takes me way out of my comfort zone, but I felt I had no choice, that I needed to advocate for my family and my neighbors. So one of the things I was going to focus on was that balcony. So can I just get some clarification? If that variance has been removed, does that mean that the maximum balcony size they could build would be what the bylaw states? Like they could build a balcony, but they could not exceed I believe the allowed four square meter?
So that is correct. So the applicant has told the committee that he would like to, or suggesting that the variance related to the platform can be removed. It has not been decided yet whether it's removed or not, but that's a proposition by the applicant that it could be removed should the committee sees it necessary. So that's where it is right now. So to your point, yes, if that variance is removed, they could build a deck up to maximum 4 square meters.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, so yeah, similar to what Alona was speaking on, I mean, the most appealing part of our property from the day we bought it is the large open backyard. We've spent the last 18 plus years enjoying it with our family and friends, and now more than ever, it's important to be able to gather outdoors. If you're not familiar with this area, it features large backyards with a canopy of mature trees. It's easily our favorite characteristic of our home and community. So, I mean, I won't take up my time speaking on the balcony, but so I'll just skip past that. But I mean, even with a building that size, kind of, you know, coming so far into the backyard where there previously wasn't a building, even with a 4 square meter balcony, that's going to create a very intrusive overview into our backyard area. It's going to be a visual intrusion that would make us feel very exposed and would result in a negative effect on our right to enjoy our backyard. And Brian, if you could bring up attachment 3, I just would like you guys to kind of take a tour of the block on that 142 Harewood is located. So you can see on the east side of Harewood, between Anson and Randall, there are 12 houses. 10 of those are bungalows, and 2 are 2-story houses. There's the 2-story houses. So the 2 2-story houses were originally bungalows and were renovated to add the 2nd story. On the west side of Harewood, between Anson and Randall, there's 9 houses. Of these, 2 of them are bungalows, 5 are 1.5 stories, and 2 have 2 stories. On this block, there's a total of 21 houses, 57% are bungalow, 23% are 1.5 story, and 19% are 2-story. The character of our neighborhood is modest bungalows, 1.5 story houses, and a few 2-story houses that respect the footprint of the original dwellings. Now, I don't begrudge anyone that chooses to increase the size of their house through renovation or even build a new custom home. What I do take exception to is the obscene size and scale of this proposed building. All 4 of these proposed variances, well, I guess now 3, will cause this house to be way out of scale with any home in our neighborhood and would have a negative impact on the character of the community. Thanks for your time, and now Janet's going to speak.
Thank you, Greg. Any questions for Greg? Members of the committee? Okay, I see none. Janet, please proceed. You have 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Janet May, and I live at 147 Harewood Avenue, which is across the street from 142 Harewood. I am also speaking on behalf of the Cliffcrest Scarborough Village Southwest Residents Association in opposition to the minor variance application. As you can see from the petitions submitted by concerned neighbors, which you should have on file, there is a lot of opposition to this egregious new build. On a personal note, my husband and I moved to Cliffcrest 5 years ago because we were empty nesters who wanted to downsize, but did not want to move into a condominium. We were attracted to Cliffcrest because of the spacious front and backyards and the side yards that the modest sized houses have on both sides. We feel that this is the prevailing character of the neighborhood. The Residents Association strongly opposes the minor variance application for 142 Harewood because the 4 tests as set out in section 45.1 of the Planning Act are not satisfied. Are the variances minor? Brian, could you please put up attachment 2 on the screen, please? Thank you. Okay, attachment 2 shows the allowed gross floor area and floor space index of houses on Harewood Avenue. The data is as accurate as possible and is based on data from the City of Toronto, which in some cases may be out of date. As you can see, the red lines on the graph going up are what the proposed GFA, and the chart further down, the FSI, show what is actually being proposed here. As you can see, approval of variances 1, 2, and 3 will result in a building that is significantly larger than all other houses on the block. Is the proposal desirable for the appropriate development of the land? Clearly, no. The proposed building will dwarf the immediate neighbors and overpower the bungalows on the other side of the street. As mentioned, previous renovations have respected the character of the neighborhood. These renovations have not encroached on the privacy of their neighbors. The people who live nearby do not think this proposal is desirable. Test number 3. Do the requested variances maintain the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw? Again, no. The intent and purpose of the bylaw is to ensure that the massing of a new dwelling is appropriately scaled to other existing dwellings. As Greg has pointed out, this proposal is not compatible with existing houses in the neighborhood with respect to size and would be detrimental to the character of the neighborhood. The final test, do the requested variances maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan? No. Brian, could you please put up attachment 1, which is the overlay? As you know, the intent and purposes of the official plan are to ensure that new development in an existing neighborhood respects the physical character of that neighborhood. Not only is this building too large, it also has architectural features not found anywhere else in this block. None of the houses have turrets. None of them have double integral garages, double driveways, 2-story entryways with 2-story columns, or excessively large 2nd-story balconies that overlook their neighbors. The official plan states in Chapter 4, Section 4.5, that no changes shall be made through rezoning, minor variance, consent, or other public action that are out of keeping with the physical character of the neighborhood. In our opinion, these variances do not satisfy the 4 tests, and the Residents Association urges the members of the Committee of Adjustment to deny the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. I guess that brings us to the end of the speakers list. Members of the committee, any question for Janet or any of the speakers? I see none. All right. Thank you, the neighbors, for your time today. Now we go back to Peter Jurusik. Peter.
Hello.
Hi. You heard
Yes,
the concerns. Could you please respond to the concerns that were raised?
In terms of the massing, when they look at the front elevation, we are respecting the zoning bylaw in terms of maximum wall height as laid out to 7 meters. That extra height, as I mentioned, is only at the peak of the roof in the center of the property, which does not affect the neighboring properties. We are at the property lines, at the edges of the houses. We do adhere to the height restrictions of wall height, which is another governing principle to dictate some massing. And again, like I mentioned, this was just to avoid a flat roof portion. And should that be an argument of concern of bone of contention here, then we can revise it to comply with the 0.3 and reduce it with a flat portion. There would have to be, EPDM membranes and whatnot, different type of construction. But if that is of a concern, that can be reduced. In terms of the other issues we've talked about here, this area, when you're looking around Harewood itself, even houses such as 127 Harewood is a new 2-story build on a larger lot similar to this. Granted, there's no circular turrets, but they have projections, very similar new construction build. There are other houses along Harewood up and down the road. In the immediate vicinity, yes, I agree. Right across the street from us, those are still existing dwellings. But up and down, this is an area that's currently in transition. People are purchasing properties, either renovating them or building new houses. I've also, at the corner of Harewood, at 159 was another 2-story house built with 2 double garage corner residence there just up the road. And so to pick 1 or 3 houses just in the immediate vicinity does not portray the entire community as a whole. because on Harewood itself, I have personally over the last 5 years of overseeing the design of at least 3 or 4 dwellings on it of this scale and nature, even with turrets on them. Um, in terms of the design, this is an area that's not static. It's a dynamic area that's coming in. We have the wartime bungalows. Many people are purchasing these properties for either renovating or building new houses. The majority of the variances I do believe do meet the 4 tests as they are minor in nature. In terms of the massing of the building, in terms of that area, I believe it was a few items ago where it was mentioned by one of the committee members that the massing itself, we comply with front yard setbacks, rear yard setbacks, side yard setbacks. If it's only the area, the FSI, my previous designs, I've had some family room open to above areas, which would reduce it, but it would not necessarily change the massing of the house. So besides the height issue, which if that is a bone of contention and we can have to put a flat roof to bring it down to 1 foot or 0.3 meters, that's not an issue. But we comply with the other variances which dictate massing of the house under zoning bylaw, being front yard, side yard, and building depth I've already discussed in the sense that the building depth, if the second floor was brought in, it would have complied because the majority of the house is at 17 meters. So though I understand the concerns of the neighbors in this area, this is an area in transition. It has been transitioning over the last 5 years, and there will be more transitions as I've aware of other applications that are coming forth. This area is desirable, and it's in a state of dynamic change.
Thank you. Any questions for Peter? All right, thank you. If there are no questions, I'd like to take the matter into committee. Committee members, Member Macaulay.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Peter, for your presentation. I went out to this area. I was surprised that this portion of Harewood Avenue is north of Kingston Road, and as I was expecting it to be part of that development that's happening south of Kingston Road. But Peter, you are correct. This is an area that is undergoing transition. There are some changes. There are some large 2-story houses in the area that are starting to pop up. However, given that what we have before us really is what will be setting the precedent, if we want to call it that, for what happens in the area. And I know a variance doesn't set a precedent, so I'm just using that term to say to you and to the community that once you start to get these changes in, others will say, yes, it was done here. I would like to do it there. I have looked at this application, and the one thing that I guess I'm most concerned about, and you haven't mentioned, is the gross floor area. You are asking for an increase in FSI to 0.57 FSI, where the existing FSI is 0.40. Now, we're used to moving that FSI up a little, but you're asking for a 17% from 40 to 57 increase. That the building height, I understand you've got the turrets, you're trying to get the height is a bit higher than permitted. The building length is 18.62 versus 17. So yes, that's going to go into the rear yards. You have a fairly large lot, so I don't have a problem of it going into the rear yards as much. And I'm pleased that you are proposing to take the platform off. However, I think overall, what you're proposing is just too large for this lot at the 0.57 FSI versus permitted 0.40 FSI. I'll be ready for any questions from my other members.
Member M, please go ahead.
So, I mean, just taking a street view look up and down the street, there is a lot of consistency with the wartime bungalows. That being said, I understand this is an area of transition and minor replacement of, older housing stock with new rebuilds is to be expected. That being said, I kind of agree with my fellow member, Macaulay, Madam Macaulay, as it is a little bit of a large increase in the FSI. And I understand that you meet all of the other setbacks, but, you know, I think for the overall scale, it would be ideal for you to just scale the overall amount of floor space back a little bit. I mean, the height is, I do feel, is minor at 0.33 of a meter. The building length also sort of is tied with the floor space. So if you were to just reduce the building length a little bit, that would also reduce the FSI. And I think those two together are tied. So if you could come closer to that 17 meters, you know, I think you're going to be in a more palatable area for your gross floor area. That being said, you know, I'm willing to support a partial approval here if we can't come to an agreement. And I understand that it is kind of unfair for the residents who's taken the time out of their day to attend this meeting to sort of entertain changes to the application like spontaneously like this. So I leave it to my fellow committee members if we feel comfortable entertaining minor adjustments to variants 1 and 3 to reduce the overall scale and impact to this neighborhood and streetscape, or if we would like to proceed with just a partial approval of 2 and 4, which I think 4 is being removed. Sorry, I apologize.
So, Member M, what do you suggest? How you deal with variance number 1? Like you're suggesting that a modification be made, but remember we're in committee
Well,
right now.
I understand we're in committee now, so it's kind of difficult. But, you know, if Peter was agreeable with his client to bring that sort of 18 meters in length, and if he was able to provide us the new calculation of floor area by reducing 3, I would be able to support all of the variances before us.
But we're past that point, Member M. I'm just trying to, this is what I'm trying to establish here, is that we're in committee right now. We're not discussing with Peter anymore. So I don't know how,
Okay.
yeah, so I'm struggling a bit because that's a protocol thing. I cannot open up the floor again for discussion. I announced that very clearly, we are in committee. So those.
Understood. So then,
yeah,
I guess we're faced with a partial approval, Anne. Go ahead.
Without talking? Okay. The other option that you can think of is, if you want that, is a deferral, and we would have to get Mr. Jarusik's input, whether he's agreeable to deferral or would he want to have a decision. I can talk to Peter about that. We can open the floor for that, but for negotiations, I think we've passed that point. Member Macaulay.
Yes, Madam Chair and other members. I recognize how difficult it is to deal with all these items as they move back and forth. And I don't want to refuse this application without giving Peter the opportunity to request a deferral and come back with something that is more in keeping with the existing zoning provisions. And so I would recommend that this application be deferred. I'm not sure whether we can recommend a deferral or whether Peter has to agree to that.
We will have to open the floor for Peter to talk about that particular recommendation. Member Said?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I echo with the members. Two things are coming up. We hear the neighbors' concerns, which are very, very valid and genuine. It's looked like there is a miscommunication as well, or there is no communication between the neighbors and the developers. So I wonder when you go back to Pete Jurasik, I mean, if you are going back, of course, my question will be that, are you willing to have a better communication and do a consultation with the neighbors and to reach out, because partial changes won't work over here. So I think that currently the deferral could be one of the options, giving an opportunity to both the parties to talk to each other.
Okay, thank you. That's a very valid point. So committee members, based on what I've heard, it appears that we will have to, the committee is kind of leaning towards deferral and more discussion with the neighbors. I will open the floor for a moment for Peter Jarusik. Peter, you're with us?
Yes, I am. I'm still
here. Okay. So Peter, you heard our committee members would like to ask you if there is an appetite for a deferral of this application to give yourself some time to adjust your plans based on what you heard today, and speak with the neighbors who appeared before us today, and if there's an opportunity to discuss those things with the neighbors and revise the plans.
Absolutely. Yes, that's looking at how close we are to being almost in line. I know there's we won't be able to meet all the neighbors' requirements here, but I'd like to defer it. That way, I think it's better to defer it and adjust it and be almost there than get either a denial or approval and this go on further if it goes to appeals or whatnot. So I'd rather work with the neighbors further because I think we can come up to a reasonable solution here that would make everybody at least a little bit more comfortable with the design and the sizing of the building. So I think that's and we could probably eliminate like mentioned by Councillor M, Member M, that we can probably eliminate even the building depth with that regard. Okay, so I would like I agree with your recommendation for deferral.
Okay, Member Macaulay, you have a comment?
No, I'm ready for a recommendation.
Okay, all right. So members of the committee, if there are no further comments, Member Macaulay, please proceed with the motion.
I put forth a motion to defer this application, Sunny Die, with the direction for the applicant to meet with the adjacent neighbors and return to the committee.
May I have a seconder, please? Member Said seconds the motion. All in favor of this motion? All opposed? Member M, you did not vote on any of this. Are you in favor of this motion or opposed?
Sorry, I meant to put my hand up.
For?
I'm in favor of the motion.
Okay. So all members are in favor of the motion and the motion is carried. The application has been deferred to die. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Okay. So perfect timing. It's noon. The next few items are going to take a bit, so I suggest we take a break. Members of the committee, how much time would you need for a break? 15 minutes? 20 minutes?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I would suggest 20 minutes. That's my view.
Okay, 20 minutes? Okay. Okay, so just to keep it clean, we will give you a little bit more time, Gary, and we will come back at 12:30. Okay? Please,
Thank you, Madam Chair.
please mute yourselves before you go. Thank you.
Through the chair.
Yes.
For those currently viewing on YouTube right now through the AM session, when we come back and resume at 12:30, the AM session will end and we will resume on the PM session. So for those who are currently viewing on YouTube right now, at 12:30, please navigate to the March 11th PM session. Thank you very much.
Brian, would you be able to put a slide on or something? Okay, perfect. So for those of you listening, we are on a break now. We will resume at 12:30, so please follow the link to the PM meeting. Thank you.